Hello, everyone. I'm Erin Hussein, and I am the Associate Director of Alumni Relations for GSAS. As GSAS alumni, you are part of an alumni association that includes over 46,000 alumni worldwide. I am so glad to be connecting with all of you through this format today. I'm so pleased to welcome you to episode 5 of GSAS Conversations in virtual form. I'd like to welcome back anyone who was here for the past 4 Wednesdays for Blitzer, Jessamine Conrad, Martha Joint Kumar, and Arlene Bronzaft. Today, I have the pleasure of bringing Gerard Bushell to speak with you about delivering the airport of the future in an uncertain world. Gerard graduated from Columbia College and then earned the PhD in political science in 2004. He is currently executive chair of the new Terminal 1 development project at JFK and chair of CAG Holdings, the airport investment platform of the Carlyle Group. He leads the team advancing a public-private partnership with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey to build a world-class 2.8 million square foot international terminal that will be the finest airport facility in the Americas. The approximately $8 billion project will be delivered with a high degree of community engagement, labor participation, and minority and women-owned businesses, enterprise goals of 30%. Join us as we discuss infrastructure investment, community development, public-private partnerships, and job creation, and how the COVID-19 pandemic has made them more essential than ever. I also want to mention that Gerard is also an adjunct professor at Columbia, so I think he is very well versed at speaking to groups like this. Please note, although you will be muted throughout the presentation, you can ask questions through the chat function. We also have several questions that were already submitted. We will ask Gerard as many questions as time allows. With that, I introduce Gerard Bushell. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Erin. Really appreciate the introduction. And thank you, fellow colleagues. Thank you, Columbians. Thank you, non-Columbians. This is always a wonderful experience for me to return to the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, certainly where I had the opportunity to study with great faculty and really get an opportunity to learn more, transform my sense of perspective, and hopefully have transformed many of those who engaged me and were very much at the early years of my learning process. Look, I think the one thing I would like to say to you is we are delivering an iconic project, and with that iconic project, we understand the importance of delivering upon the commercial experience, the customer experience, and the community experience. Those are the 3 pillars that are very important to who we are, what we're doing, and how we're going to execute. As the executive chair of New Terminal 1, I represent a very important consortium of financial sponsors. The Carlyle Group, which is a global investment platform with well over $250 billion of assets under management. The Carlyle Airport Group is the development arm for airports for Carlyle. I am the chair of that entity. Amit Ricky is the president and CEO. It is through that entity that we executed on this project, that we bid starting in 2017 and sought to begin the process of delivery. I am the executive chair of New Terminal 1, which is, I think I forgot one piece. So I left out, so Jlc Infrastructure Partners, right? These are my other partners, Jlc Infrastructure Partners, which is a partnership of Magic Johnson and Jim Reynolds, Loop Capital Management. That is our minority women business enterprise partner. So they have a 30% partnership in this transaction. It's very important. And our labor partner is Union Life and Labor Insurance Corporation, ULICO. That represents the building trades. That is the investment arm of the building trades. So all of the pensioners and the building trades put their capital into Ullico, and they invest on their behalf. So what we have done is we've brought together a partnership, an innovative partnership, strong financial sponsor, all right, an MWBE partner that is nationally renowned, all right, with deep pockets and works very well with state and local governments across the nation, as well as the building trades. And that has been the framework in which we have approached this. I come to this role with a number of responsibilities in which I have moved back and forth between the private sector, public service, and labor. So I started my career as a community organizer, and I really didn't talk about it for many years until my former classmate made community organizing very popular, and that's Barack Obama, because that wasn't something that, you know, students who graduated from Columbia College in the 80s actually did. But I started as a community organizer at the Community Services Society. I've worked in local politics for many years for C. Virginia Fields, who was the former council member in the borough of Manhattan and in Harlem, Upper West Side. And then she later became the borough president. I worked at a labor union, District Council 37, which was and continues to be the largest public employee union. It was in this whole matrix that I certainly worked on many of the issues that we're confronting today in terms of this uncertainty around questions of racial injustice, where we had advanced the All Civilian Complaint Review Board. So I was very central to that process as C. Virginia Fields Chief of Staff, where we put together a partnership, a coalition of interests in terms of Blacks, Latinos, whites, labor, in terms of tackling the issues of police brutality. I say All Civilian Complaint Review Board. I mean, many of you may say, okay, well, what does that really mean? At the time, the Civilian Complaint Review Board was largely composed of police officers. So that was a real pivotal period, certainly under the administrator of David Dinkins and C. Virginia Fields. Ronnie Eldridge, Victor Robles, and Peter Vallone really led that initiative, and the city council was involved in that. The Cops and Kids program, something we talk about community policing today, hugely important. So what sometimes was relevant yesterday continues to be relevant today. That was an important project that I had worked on. You know, decided later on to go into the private sector, working in the private sector, worked for firms such as Citi, KKR, as well as Bank of New York Mellon. And then the Governor Cuomo asked me to join his administration as a cabinet member to lead the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York. Dormitory Authority of the State of New York is really the financer and builder for social infrastructure, and that would be higher education institutions as well as hospitals. We also financed state and local government justice systems, i.e. courts. We did resiliency. We worked in terms of life sciences. So if you really think about the life sciences infrastructure that is in New York State, and particularly New York City, we built that, we financed, and that was built by our private partners. So that would be Columbia Universities. So their life science infrastructure, we financed well over $1 billion of that, NYU, as well as City College's Advanced Science Research Center. And we're leaders in the MWBE space, minority women-owned business enterprise. It was that experience when, after say 5 years, I made a determination that I wanted to return to the private sector, but I was looking to do more than just go back and run a business. I wanted an opportunity to really not just drive revenue, all right, but also really advance on social goals, ESG goals, environmental, social, as well as governance issues. And there are not a lot of opportunities in that space. Yes, it's certainly growing. And Carlisle certainly approached me and brought me to the discussions in which they wanted to partner at the time with the Port Authority and in what is an incredibly iconic project. And so that really is the genesis of how I got here. Specifically, as we look at what we're seeking to do, I think it's just incredibly important for people to recognize. And today I shared a letter with my colleagues that I personally wrote, highlighting to each of them the importance and the relevance of the work that we are doing, all right, in the space of infrastructure. So infrastructure is hugely important. I work in the administration of Governor Andrew Cuomo, and one of the things that he would talk about was how New York State, all right, at sort of the turn of the American Revolution, coming out of that, was really a leader, all right, in building infrastructure that provided a gateway, all right, to the Western frontier, that provided a gateway up through the Hudson River, all the way north to Buffalo, the Erie Canal. And so the thinking, the genesis has always been that New York, the Empire State, was once a leader, and it has fallen into disrepair, and particularly the airports. And so that is the genesis of looking at this public-private partnership, first and foremost. The private sector leveraging its capital, assuming risk, and moving these projects forward. It's also relevant because today, with the fundamental challenge in terms of the collapse of demand that this nation, this city, this state, the metropolitan region is confronting, all right? We see this as a project that can lead the recovery in our region. Hugely important, can lead the recovery. That is number one. There's a profound amount of economic insecurity that people are experiencing. We don't know how long this will continue, but clearly folks want jobs. Here are jobs and opportunities that we are prepared to deliver. That's number one. Number two, the questions that are very pregnant and pervasive around the issue of inequality, racial injustice, all right, that's finally, okay, come to the forefront where people can talk about the importance that Black lives matter. They really do. Coming to terms with the unequal treatment, the injustice, the inequality that Blacks and communities of color, poor people, are encountering, we have what is an incredibly important program that is dedicated to equity and inclusion. And that is the Minority Women Business Enterprise Program, in which case we're going to drive more than $1.5 billion of work, all right, to MWBE firms, all right? Now, at the end of the day, you've got to be competitive, you've got to be excellent, all right? You've got to be able to harness your business to move forward. That's the foundational question, because I know oftentimes we talk about equity and inclusion. A lot of people say, well, we need excellence. I'm an example of equity and inclusion, all right? I had to go through all of the tracks, all right, to get through Columbia and get out of Columbia, and then find my way across public service, some of the most competitive investment platforms in the globe, all right? Citi, KKR, BNY, and now Carlisle. So what we're talking about is creating opportunities for people, all right, communities, all right, to compete. So we see this project as incredibly important. Why don't we move to the next page? The issue that we recognize, and Governor Cuomo is is still, I believe, speaking at LaGuardia Airport this morning, talking about the infrastructure gap, talking about the transformation of LaGuardia. The US and New York State, but the US faces a huge infrastructure gap. We are way behind the 8 ball. And as you can see, the cumulative needs, all right, total well over $4 trillion. As many of you have experienced, certainly firsthand, airports in the US leave a whole lot to be desired, especially compared to other parts of the world. So on the right-hand side, you will see the Skytrax airport rankings. The airports in Asia just leap through the roof. They're just incredible in terms of the transformational experience. And then you may, in fact, have an airport in Europe. But the US, we are always at the bottom. I will tell you that. The first US airport to appear is Denver at a ranking of number 32. One of the newest, I might add, only built in 1995. JFK, the main international airport for New York City, ranks number 74. Newark and LaGuardia are not on the list. Now, I would believe that with the changes at LaGuardia, you begin to see them move forward. But this is a huge collapse in terms of the fact that the needs outweigh the capital. So why don't we move to the next one? So really reflecting upon that, we're looking at what type of project is this, right? So generally, we're talking about many types of public needs, but in order for government to begin to think about these solutions, right? And we're living in a world today in which I believe New York City's budget is negative $10 billion. New York State is probably $15 to $16 billion in terms of needs, given the fact that we have just had a complete collapse in demand. They're not collecting personal income tax. Sort of the needs outweigh the dollars. And so in this state, Governor Cuomo has commenced really an effort to look at more off-balance sheet initiatives. And so our partner is the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. And we're looking at what they call a P3. So, you know, what is a P3? This is an execution strategy, a delivery model where the private sector can, in fact, play a leading role in addressing the shortfall while bringing additional benefits. So the public-private partnership is seen as a generic term which covers a range of public entities that may engage with the private sector by transferring certain responsibilities. A number of the benefits for this model are transferring development risk away from the public sector, which means where taxpayers do not have to ultimately cover the delays, the cost runs, all right? So the transfer of risk from the public sector to the private entity, all right, is based on the transaction and the motivation to deliver expeditiously on time and on budget. Depending on the structure, a P3 can also cover the operational period, which encourages the private entity to take a long-term life cycle approach to maintenance, which can extend the life of the asset. So the private sector is delivering capital. Not only is it delivering capital, but the dynamic is to also deliver innovation, all right, to execute faster. And so there is generally an upfront payment that is made, and then there are payments made over the life cycle of the project. You could have a lease anywhere from 30 to 50 years or longer. So the private sector has to bring capital, right? It also is looking for time, but it's got to be innovative, all right? And in this case, what we have done is we've assembled a world-class team for New Terminal 1 at JFK. We'll highlight that team throughout later in the presentation, but you got a sense of our financial sponsors. So again, private sector delivers capital flexibility where the public sector could have a budget constraint, right, or has a demand need, right, but does not want to put capital at risk, right, and is looking for a partnership, right, over the life cycle of this asset. So that's really what we're doing. This is a public-private partnership where there are motivations and material incentives on both sides. So we have to make this work, all right? But we're also going to be sharing the upside with the Port Authority. Now, as you know, the Port Authority, so when we think about a public-private partnership, again, we start with this is a very challenging time. The Port Authority, all right, has gone to the federal government and has requested a $3 billion capital infusion. My understanding is that their budget, all right, is negative $3 billion. And so this is going to have a huge impact on their ability to move projects forward. They have a 10-year, $32 billion capital project budget. The good thing for us, this is our partner, we're working very closely with them, we're off balance sheet, all right? So we're bringing our private capital. Obviously, there is some capital commitment that they will have to make to this project. So again, public-private partnership of P3 is going to be very critical in this operating milieu and this budget cycle. So these are some of the models. The simplest model is really the O&M, the management contract. As we say, there are three types of models. The O&M contract is one in which the public entity will contract with a private entity solely for operations and maintenance of a facility. So one of our partners, which is the Munich Group, right? That's our operational partner. They are a global firm that operates Munich Airport. They are doing the operations and maintenance work at Newark Airport, Terminal A, all right? So that's O&M. Obviously, you see a number of other airports. The second model is the Terminal Lease model. That's what we're doing at New Terminal 1 at JFK. The private entity takes a long-term lease with the public entity for the right to develop and operate a terminal facility as part of a larger airport, which still remains under the purview of government, which remains under the purview of the Port Authority. So we're doing Terminal 1, or the New Terminal 1, I might add. And there are a number of other terminals that are being operated by other developers. But the overall terminal, the overall airport, is under the governance of the Port Authority. The third one is the whole airport lease. Obviously, the FAA has to be involved in this. They have to be involved in all of these, but they're very hands-on in this. This is a full airport privatization. It's an option in the US. However, there is only one active example to our knowledge, and that is San Juan, Puerto Rico. So in the next section, what we're highlighting here, yet again, is this gross need, all right, for infrastructure. And when you really look at the competitive disadvantage that the US has vis-a-vis the globe, certainly Europe, LATAM, and Asia, in terms of doing public-private partnerships. Now, part of that really are a function of the fact that in the US, you have what we call municipal finance, you have state and local governmental entities, you have many municipalities, there are thousands upon thousands of those. And so the general locus of doing public building has been through issuing longer term bonds, municipal debt. That's been an advantage. That has also been a disadvantage, right? This is the cheapest form of capital. So there has generally been less of an incentive to look for partnerships. That is beginning to change. So we cannot compete with the cheapest form of capital. That we're never going to compete against that. But what we bring is innovation and a delivery model that can be executed over a long period of time. And so we tend to look at that as design, build, finance. You can finance the asset, all right? Operate, right? So we're going to operate this asset and we're going to maintain it over its life cycle. And after 30 or 50 years, you return it back, all right, to the public entity. So we see North America as an emerging market. North America is an emerging market. We could be early, but clearly you look at the infrastructure needs. You look at how old these airports are and the amount of capital that is on the sidelines looking to move and also bring innovative solutions. So that's the opportunity set that we see that could be reflective similarly to what the levels of success that we've seen in Europe as well as Asia. It's a long slog, I can tell you that, because there's just a lot of competing processes, but we're in the early days. Here we show all three main New York Metro airports undergoing development. That's the three in the red. LaGuardia redevelopment. That, again, the governor is talking about the fact that that airport is in the process of being delivered. I believe that there were a number of private developers involved in that process. You know, it had a rough start, a rocky beginning, but I think the conclusion has gone very well. There's Newark, Terminal 1, and then there's JFK redevelopment, which we are part of, and there are two additional other projects. Now, in between, what we're highlighting, again, is the $100 billion capital budget focus, all right, on what New York State is looking at. I've had the benefit of working on some of these projects when I was a cabinet member in Governor Cuomo's administration, working on the 2nd Avenue subway. You would say, what the hell does DASNY know about the 2nd Avenue subway? Well, we partnered with the MTA. We are builders and we are project managers. And so we work very closely with the Empire State Development Corporation, the MTA, to really focus on how can we execute, all right, and shorten the schedule for delivery. That was hugely important in 2017. I also worked on another iconic project, which is the Moynihan Development Train Center, and that is the Moynihan Station project, where you bring together the Long Island Railroad, you bring together the Long Island Railroad, New Jersey Transit, as well as the MTA subway system. You'd have incredible retail shopping underground, and that really was sort of a way in which you could expand and enhance the West Side 34th Street area. An incredible project. So this really is sort of the framework and the breadth of the development that is really taking place in New York City and New York State and in the metropolitan region. So again, why Terminal 1, all right? Governor Cuomo comes along, visioning in 2017. looks at the infrastructure across the state, but recognizing one of the most important infrastructure experiences that you can have, all right, are your airports, all right? That really is a determining factor in terms of your presence and place, all right, in the world. And certainly New York is the front door. New York City is the front door to the United States when you really look at traffic patterns. Immediately a focus on creating a world-class facility, all right? Going through the issue of how do we get seamless terminal integration? How do we simplify our roadways? How do we have easy access to and from the airport? I can tell you, I've lived in this city almost all of my life, and anytime I went to John F. Kennedy International Airport, previous to taking this job, I generally drove in my car. I got Uber, or I took a taxi. I did not take the train. It just was not intuitive to me. Now, the experience that I begin to see is, in terms of taking the subway, right, to the air train, and really getting direct access to the airport. I had never experienced that as a New Yorker. But what I learned was so many people who were coming to this great city were using that as a method of transportation. That is hugely important in terms of how we think about access. Same thing is happening at Newark. The other issue is safety and security, right? So we are all aware of the experiences that we have had in this city and the experiences that we have across the globe in terms of our security and safety. Not only is this a world-class airport that we're looking to deliver, but it has to be one that is secure and safe, all right? The challenge that we are confronting in terms of COVID, all right, hugely important in terms of how we think about our development and our design, all right? How we think about the impact that has had in terms of the delivery of traffic, all right? So one of the things people say, well, you're building an airport at an incredible time in which there has been a collapse in traffic, little to no demand. So we're building a business, we're delivering a construction project. And this construction project will commence later on this year, but will be completed in terms of its first phase 5 years from now and its final phase in year 6. Our expectation is that we expect to see a recovery in terms of the traffic patterns. And this is an international only airport, international only terminal. So that's hugely important. This is the team. So we've put together really an innovative group of financial sponsors that I highlighted to you at the top of the right-hand side. Our lead builder is AECOM Tishman. AECOM Tishman is one of the largest builders across the globe. In New York, AECOM Tishman in particular is either the largest or the second largest builder, having completed the World Trade Center project, working on the Oculus, working on LaGuardia Partners. So they are our design builder, all right? So again, when we start talking about a public-private partnership in which we are working with the Port Authority and they're transferring risk to us as financial sponsors, right? So we're raising equity capital. We're going into the capital markets for debt capital, all right? Because we need a financeable project, all right? We also have to begin to identify a design builder, right? Because we're not doing your conventional design, bid, and build, which is over a long period of time. We're trying to execute this project expeditiously, all right? And really exceed what a public sector sponsor would do. So in many respects, and this might be Greek to a number of you, we're going in, all right, and executing on our design project with what we call 100% schematic design. That is the first level of design. There are 3 levels. schematic design, then there's design documentation where you have, more data, more information to go forward. We will execute in terms of design documentation in October. Then the third level is construction design. And that's generally where you see design, bid, build, because that's a complete design. We're not going and building this with a complete design, all right? And so we bring in a design builder who is at risk, all right? We give that design builder a lump sum package to advance this project. So again, when we talk about public-private partnerships, understand that there's risk at each stage of a transaction. As we move to the center, our project management office is composed of really three key participants. So Faithful and Gould is a project manager, but they're a subsidiary of SNC Lavalin, which is a global builder. It's a global general contractor, and that really represents the backbone of resources that we would have access to in our project management office. That's where we are executing our design, our construction capability. So SNC Lavalin, McKissick and McKissick, which is the oldest MWBE construction firm in the country, that is owned by Cheryl McKissick and her sister. And they are our MWBE partner. Lear Cumming, headed by Peter Lear, who has worked on Javits and Moynihan and is currently working on LaGuardia. So our staff is composed of representatives from each of those three organizations. As we move up in the center, our operating partner is Reach. So Munich Reach, which operates Munich Airport in Germany, which is a wonderful place, a wonderful airport. And it's one of, if not the only top 5 airport in the Western Hemisphere, or one of the only top 5 airports in the Western Hemisphere. They bring a tremendous amount of experience on the operational side. Why have Munich this early? Because we need to integrate Munich operationally into the design and construction very early on. So there are a number of things, right? So we're delivering a construction project, but we're also building out a business. We're also, all right, grappling with the uncertainty of how COVID, all right, is going to shape our design or reshape our design. That we understand. The one thing we will understand, people will demand more technology because people want less or fewer and fewer opportunities to touch things, right? So we understand that. So there are a lot of permutations to this. Munich is working through a number of protocols in their existing airport today to identify how we best service customers, how we best, all right, envision the ways in which customers enter the airport, the way in which customers will navigate their way through the airport, through check-in. Do they want check-in counters? For the most part, we recognize most of us who travel today have already checked in by the time we arrive at an airport. So again, advancing many of those initiatives. So Munich is central to that. As we go to the left, bottom left, I think is important because our design is being advanced by Bushell. Bushell is nationally renowned and has worked very closely with the Port Authority and has done airport designs for 40 airports. So again, we wanted that intellectual capital in terms of really having this iconic design. It's a big footprint, but something that had to just really jump off the page. Bushell, in partnership with Atkins, Siska Hennessy, Walter P. Moore, RCGA, has been very important. This is what we call a Category 2 segment of our project. There are 4 categories. Category 1 is finance, Category 2 is design, Category 3 is construction, Category 4 is operational. When we look at our execution strategy through our MWBE participation to date, it is largely through category 1, the finance side, which we will commence, and the design side, where we have spent more than $70 million, all right, and allocated $70 million of design money to MWBE partners who work very closely with Bushell to advance this project. As you move further up, again, this project, very central. Airlines are critical to moving this. The airlines that you see, Air France, Japan Airlines, Korea Air, Lufthansa, they are the original sponsors of Terminal 1, the existing Terminal 1. They are our partners in terms of developing and delivering this. So Carlisle is the majority partner at 60%. JLC is a minority partner at 30%. Ullico is a partner, but they are a very important partner as well in terms of being able to execute on this strategy. And challenge, of course, is, airline traffic is hugely down. And we're working very closely with our partners in terms of going through each iterative stage to deliver this project. This is what we call the concentric circles. And, we're taking a long-term view of our project by focusing on understanding and preparing for future operational and commercial processes, and making sure that we incorporate flexibility into our design today as part of our project delivery. So again, I'd like to repeat, we're not just delivering a construction project, we're building a business. And that's why this has to be a very seamless circle. And so when you really think about it from the interior, a project delivery, the technical side, the construction side that is focused on design and construction, all right, we have infused the operational integrity of what this airport is going to not just envision, but what is its look, its feel, the experience, all right? So that's the operational side that we're working very closely with Munich. Customer experience is hugely important. So yes, we want this to be iconic. We want this to be secure. We want this to be safe, but we want our customers, okay, who are going to be using our airport to feel a level of security and health safety, all right? Because we now have a whole new set of vectors that are very prominent in terms of how we have to think about use and design, all right? So the other aspect that is important is the commercial experience. So the airports in the US have been completely unattractive in terms of the feel, the look, and the food experience, or just any type of amenity that you would have, charging, seating. And so one of the things that we're looking to do is really just jump off the page with a particular feel. Again, this is an international only terminal. People are coming to the front door of the US, and we want to provide them with this world-class experience, something that is uniquely New York. And one of the critical foundations will be retail and how we do retail. So we've got to think about that, because that is yet another area where we've seen a huge amount of disruption, all right? And it's not a function of technology, it's just a function of demand. I mean, so what happens, okay, when you have a crisis, when you have a problem, how do we get customers in and out? What are the things that people are going to have an inclination towards? All right, how are people buying? All right, how do people consume? And what do they consume at this point in time in a crisis environment? And then as we go to the outside, again, we are focusing on our partners. The customer experience is hugely important. We're working with our airlines. We have to work with government in terms of homeland security, as well as the FAA. There are a number of regulatory issues that we do have to meet in terms of how bags are handled and scanned. Port Authority is a very important partner. with respect to their overall governance of the airport. In New York State is a very important partner based on the governor's experience. So this is important in terms of these concentric circles and meeting the needs of our client, our partner, the customer, and the community. Redevelopment. The current Terminal 1 was built in 1998 and was originally designed for a capacity of 3.6 million passengers. In 2019, over 8 million passengers passed through Terminal 1, more than double the original design capacity, highlighting the high demand and pressing need for new and expanded facilities. To address this demand, if you go to the right, we are more than doubling the number of gates at the terminal from 10 gates today to 23 upon full opening. 22 of the 23 gates are wide body gates, including numerous positions that can accommodate the largest aircraft type. There will be significantly more space as well, so that is also an advantage as we begin to design and think about social distancing. The new Terminal 1 will be 4 times larger than the current Terminal 1 and will be built on a site 3 times larger than the current leasehold. Now, although the new Terminal 1 will be an entirely new world-class facility, Terminal 1 on the left will remain the premier all-international terminal at JFK. We will, all right, again, we're increasing capacity. We will take that down once we begin to deliver the first phase of new Terminal 1. And that's what this section is. Again, building a world-class terminal at a hugely busy airport in the world. We've got to be deliberate about how we think about phasing of the project over the next 6 years. If you look at the pink, those are the existing terminals. So from the right, I think that's Terminal 3, it is. In the middle, that would be Terminal 2. And at the left, that's Terminal 1. We're going to take all of that out. All right, we're going to take all of that out and really start building, as you see in the middle, that's the apron, the head house, and deliver the head house as well as that's A1, A2, and B over the next 4.5 years. And then deliver the eastern gate in year 5 or 6. We'll move through that very quickly. We're looking to commence construction later on this year. Again, ensuring best-in-class performance, operations and maintenance, very important. Emergency management, critically important in terms of how you operate an airport. Sustainability is hugely important. We're going to have 100% electric ground service equipment. Our carbon footprint, we're looking at an 80% reduction. One of our partners is what we call Alpha Structure. That's Schneider Electric and Carlisle coming together and creating Alpha Structure. And security is hugely important. So again, we've got to meet best-in-class performance in all of these metrics. Like I said, starting out, this is a project that meets the moment in time, creating opportunities for the community and region. So from a job perspective, we will be delivering on 5,000 plus construction jobs, 10,000 permanent jobs with continuity once we deliver this. There is a focus on prioritizing opportunities for local firms and residents. One of the things that we negotiated with the Port Authority and the building trades was to prioritize 35 local zip codes in Queens and Western Nassau County, as well as New York and New Jersey, right? Well, the 35 zip codes start with Queens, Southeast Queens and Western Nassau, and you move in terms of these concentric circles outward in terms of identifying opportunities, in terms of jobs, as well as local business development. We have made a huge commitment as sponsors to 30% MWBE participation across all disciplines, and certainly at the financial sponsor level. We have a project labor agreement. It is leading, and it really is the envelope in which you would execute your construction projects working with the labor trades. So this is a unionized project. And the project provides for up to $400 million inside the PLA for MWBE participation. This is 2 times the size of LaGuardia. Huge community engagement, huge community involvement. We've got initiatives on educational workforce, environment, business development, and we're delivering the JFK Airport Academy to really be a training mechanism for local workers and enhance their skills and bring opportunities to them so that they can come into the terminal for jobs. Again, this is our affirmation or reaffirmation in terms of the commitment to MWBE participation. All of our partners must come with method and means in terms of executing the MWBE commitment. 20% M's, 10% W's. Here's the commitment to diversity. We highlight a couple of photos where we're working with the community. That's Rick Cotton, who is the executive director of the Port Authority, with myself. The picture below is our JLC partnership with Magic Johnson. That is Magic Johnson to the right at JLC Infrastructure Partners, really talking to investors about the importance of this project, the importance of diversity, the importance of innovation, the importance of excellence. And then at the bottom is Cheryl McKissick, who is the owner of McKissick & McKissick, our construction partner, talking to Michael Messiah, who is responsible for the compliance side of MWBE participation at the Port Authority. Again, we continue to show the activity and the engagement, the outreach that we have, working with the local community organizations, working with local state officials, city officials, and in particular Congressman Meeks is a hugely important project. All right, to the Queens community, the borough president, and certainly the overall metropolitan community. But it really starts in which we are delivering a very large airport, a new airport, all right, in the middle of a neighborhood. And so that's hugely important in terms of being really a good neighbor, being a sponsor, and really being a good employer. You know, look, I won't go through all of this. We have to really be very flexible, be very adaptive. These are precautions that we will execute as it relates to our construction project. So early construction is generally done, it is done outdoors. And as a function, you know, the social distancing is a lot easier because the spaces are vast and it's open. It's as you get through the construction process and you're doing interior work that we will have to have even greater concerns. But there are a lot of precautionary measures and means to ensure that we preserve the health and safety of our workers and really do comprehensive testing, enhanced cleaning and sanitizing. That's something that we're going to have to do throughout the terminal as well. Again, we highlight, you know, again, just another way of thinking about use, thinking about space. There are going to be more sanitizers, more places and spaces for people to wash their hands. This is a very large infrastructure. We will have more than your fair share of clean bathrooms. That is hugely important when you really think about how JFK is used. Obviously, social distancing, touchless checkpoints, but filtering air, looking at other ways in which we should be adapting. And there are going to be a number of protocols that we are unaware of to date that we're certain we will have to execute on. So this is the early stage, and we have the benefit of delivering, constructing an airport and watching others who are in the actual operational period figure out how you minimize, alleviate the challenges of COVID. Finally, this is, again, we talk about, this is a place we want you to come to, and we want you to feel this sense of New York place. We want you to arrive early. We want you to stay. We want you to spend money. There's the commercial side of this. We're going to have some of the finest chefs and incredible retail opportunities. But again, we'll provide a full array of options for people at many different price points. But we recognize that we really do have to deliver this sense of New York place. And the same thing with the retail. We are currently identifying a partner in the retail space who will work with us and is working with us, will commence working with us through the design. We've got a number of proprietary messages, proprietary strategies in which to really offer retail in this environment that is hugely challenged by COVID, but also one in which we want this to be an experience, not just a pass-through. What else? Food and beverage, same thing. So one of the things that we committed to is, again, this New York sense of place and making sure that we have a 50% of our opportunities are allocated to local businesses across New York businesses. So people come to the front door of the nation, New York City, and they want this incredible experience. We're going to give them that, the diversity of this great city, the diversity of cuisines, the diversity of experiences, local businesses, as well as having a commitment to allocating opportunities for disadvantaged businesses. And these are pictures. This is the curbside as you come in. And one of the things with wayfinding, the departure hall, making sure that when you walk in, you can see exactly where you need to be, as opposed to having confusion. You can see the gates to taking off and see the tail of the airplane. And here's the commercial zone where, again, this is an image of the food experience, the hall experience, the retail experience. Same thing here, against this New York sense of place. And one of the things that we also thought about is we want to give that feel of the High Line. So this is one of the, as you enter the country and you walk through the halls, you get that, really sense of New York that is similar to the High Line, and you can see it through the glass partitions. That's it. No, I've gone beyond. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Gerard. That was fantastic. It was such a treat to go back to the airport. I think many of us miss visiting airports, and that was nice to look at such a wonderful and pleasant and exciting airport. I for one, am very excited to see that in person, hopefully very soon. I think we really just have time for maybe one question. And I think this one sort of follows on with sort of what you were talking about, just in terms of how do you design a terminal for the future when so much in the airline industry can change over time?
Well, I mean, I think everything is always changing. And so I think adaptability, flexibility, and that is how we're thinking about our design. We have a vast infrastructure that gives us a huge amount of optionality to rethink space over time. So whether or not we have too much space, or we're not going to have too little space, I can tell you that. But the question is, do we have too much space? And the answer to that is no, given some of the challenges that we're currently confronting with respect to COVID. So the real issue is the adaptability, and that is the bedrock of why we focus and feature on this public-private partnership. Government can't make the transition very quickly. We are running a for-profit business, and we have a lease. We have to make lease payments. All right, we have to have profitability. We've got to do all the great things that we've said we're going to do, but we've got to be profitable. And in that context, we will adapt very quickly. This is, I think someone had asked, like TWA. Well, TWA was built for its time. We're not building just for today. We're building, all right, to think about capacity and how capacity can be used differently. We're putting in a retail footprint, all right, when clearly retail is under a tremendous amount of pressure, all right? But we are working with the retail community, all right, in terms of how do you reposition, all right, yourself vis-a-vis customers. So what is the type of engagement that customers are looking for, as opposed to, I have a store, it's brick and mortar, or you can get on, all right, Google and order. There are a whole host of different dynamics that we're working through. So it is constantly thinking about optionality, and we will have a huge commitment as well as resource allocation to making sure that we're flexible, adaptable, and responsive to changing needs. Otherwise, we die. I mean, that's just the reality. We have to do that, and so we have created spaces that can be plug and play.
Thank you, Gerard. I think that might be all we have time for today. So I just want to thank Gerard for taking us back to the airport. As I said earlier, this was a wonderful 5th episode. I am again just so very pleased and amazed to see the breadth of experience and expertise among the GSAS alumni body. Thank you to our alumni for taking time out of your day to join us. We'll be taking a break next Wednesday. We'll plan to be back on Wednesday, June 24th with Amanda Paul Garnier, who is a 2006 MA graduate and the marketing director for Italy with Frederick Wildman and Sons. And she'll share thoughts with us about the Italian wine industry post their brush with COVID. I encourage you to join us again and also send me suggestions as to anything else you'd like to hear in the future. I think we're going to be moving to a monthly format starting in July. If you want to hear it, GSAS probably has it. And again, thank you so much, Gerard, for this very inspiring and fantastic introduction to community development and what is to come at JFK. I really appreciate you spending some time with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Stay well and be well, and have a good afternoon.
Everybody, goodbye. Thank you.